back to the Spanish Era 404, where today we'll be tackling the failed residential investments that are, well, everywhere in Spain.
So, in my mission to search for abandoned places and unfinished places in Spain that come along with a crisis, this has to be one of the more sophisticated and more, well, let's put it this way, more of saying what the crisis was about places that you can probably find in Spain. And this is the Fortuna Hills nature and golf residential area, something around these lines, in an urbanization close to the city of Fortuna in Murcia. And, well, I think it speaks for itself. There were supposed to be around 214 residential buildings here, including villas and small living blocks, living spaces for people. And the aim here was to drag the British upper middle class, who was not quite rich enough to afford houses on the seaside, and allow them to settle here in the middle of nowhere. And as I probably will show you in the video, there is pretty much nothing around here besides some industrial buildings on the side of the road and this, the unfinished housing block. This place is legendary right now in Spain for so many reasons. First of all, it stands as one of the most prime examples of the overspending and over-optimism of investors. And also, it stands as a symbol of the money lost by the people who invested here. The story says that 30 million euros are still owed in the deposits placed by the future residents that never got to live here. And those deposits should be handed back by the company that was building this back in 2009 and 2010, went bankrupt. So there is nobody to sue at this moment and get that money back. But there is some Spanish legal provision, which I won't probably talk about now, that is supposed to guarantee those people payments after they lost their money, to the extent that they did. Now, this is the most unfinished section of this residential area, and I probably won't venture all the way in because I don't honestly have the time to, but just look at it. This is ridiculous. Like, you cannot imagine how much money was wasted here, and how overly optimistic somebody was to think that this was a good idea to build so many buildings in the middle of nowhere, once again in the desert, just like in Cesena Nuevo and in Ciudad Valdeluz. I'll try to get into one of these buildings and show you from up top from the drone, because I was not a fool and I didn't forget it this time, so I don't have to go back here again in the future. Technically this area was supposed to be inaccessible by now, but in fact, if you try hard enough, you can walk into any of the buildings, but they were smart enough not to build stairs so that you could climb and see the whole area that's around you. So that's why I'm not going to do that, because I'm not quite able to. But man, it just strikes me hard when I see something like this, when I see such a gigantic waste, and I know that just a little bit further that way behind me right now there is a row of almost finished buildings that never came to be. And what's even more funny for me is that the access road to this place is not even built. You have to park down the street, and the rest of it is blocked off by the 2 or 3 families that live in semi-detached houses, and the access road is completely in shambles. It was never built fully. So what was somebody thinking? I don't know. It's hard to explain. But yeah, I guess that was the way that Spain used to look. That's how the Spanish people used to invest. I mean, not the Spanish people, but the Spanish companies. I'm gonna try and walk a little further down that way to show you guys a little bit more of a view, and just watch from the top. So after having done some jumping around, I managed to find my way up. And well, let me put it this way. The view is quite interesting, because you can see everything that they did here and everything that they did wrong. Because just behind me are not the shells of the buildings, but the more finished, almost close state buildings that I wanted to show you. So we're in luck, I guess.
Starting in 1985, Spain has become home to one of the largest property bubbles in the world. Encouraged inter alia by the tax deductibles for mortgage and long eviction proceedings, owning real estate was not just an option, it seemed like the only reasonable option. What were the effects? Well, skyrocketing prices. 1 square meter of residential real estate in 2001 would have set you back some 1,500 euros. Fast forward to 2008, just before that bubble popped, and you'll be paying upwards of 3,000 euros, double the price, give and take the inflation. Doing simple math, an apartment of 150 meters squared that in 2001 would cost 225,000 euros would be more than 450,000 euros in 2008. And that's not just crazy, that is a mania.
So just as a quick ending note, since I'm up here already, as you can see, as I said many times before, it's unfinished. It's not safe too, because it seems like a good place for drug addicts and people who want to get hurt like me, because they walk on unproven ground, unproven structures that never passed any safety tests, and also because there's a guy patrolling these streets. You probably shouldn't come here. Well, this area is like unlike anything I've seen. Like Cesenia Nuevo and Valdeluz, they're almost finished, at least they seem like it. And here, well, it seems like, I'm sorry for the word, a load of bullshit has happened.
The sheer speed and scale of the investments meant that they would pop up all over Spain, even here on the Canary Islands. The goal was to open up the market to foreign capital, the money of deep-pocketed Britons or Norwegians, and in effect on Gran Canaria you can encounter places like these, the abandoned housing development dubbed the Beverly Hills of Gran Canaria.
Now, on the note of super eerie places that you can come across Spain, is one more that found me instead of me finding it. It's an abandoned investment somewhere now close to Maspalomas, and Maspalomas is just behind me, so it's really close. And it's this really, really nice set of villas on the hills. Now, these have been blasted into the rock. As I'll show you later in the video, there is a piece of rock missing where they were supposed to build these. And well, it's astonishing because these are huge villas, and those villas were supposed to be equipped with like all the amenities you could need on an island like this. And sorry, but it's creepy to be here. And if you look here, there is a swimming pool. So you've got a swimming pool and you've got your huge villa with an upstairs area, and there's also a downstairs area for parking and storage, and this huge open space here to see it. And there is a shitload of pigeons, so it's freaky. So yeah, swimming pool, nice neighbors, nice views. What could you want more from life, right? So this was supposed to be the bathroom. Give you an idea of how this looks. This is so deep. This is like 2 floors down, and there is 1 more floor up for this shaft. And just look at it, you know, your nice sitting area, dining area for TV, a bathroom down here. This was almost finished. Like, you have these writings on the wall which would tell you where things go to finish the construction. And there you can hold your car. You've got a garage. Of course, the door is gone. Well, just take a look at the size of this thing. 2 floors and 1 floor down, a basement with storage and a garage. And then you turn around and your neighbor has exactly the same thing in exactly the same state. Now, to put things into perspective, because I don't think I said enough about this, when you're here you have to think about all the people and all their stories. People who lost their money putting it towards places like this, putting it towards these weird investments in the middle of nowhere, because this is close to Maspalomas, but it's not Maspalomas, it's in the hills. And there's money that it's not to be found, you know. These companies were building them, the houses, they went bankrupt in most cases. I don't know the story here because, once again, hard across reference that there is not a lot of information about these places. Just came across it, stumbled upon it when traveling through the island. But, you know, these people, their families, lost their money. It's nowhere to be seen. These buildings have been ransacked by people who just were looking for scrap stuff, and they're never gonna live here, let's face it. These are probably just gonna collapse in a few years. Not the nicest story, but well, there's a ton of them, and there's a ton of people that got hurt in the process. The process of a boom that caused an economic collapse of the country. Not smart.
A thing you cannot help but notice here is how harmful these investments were to the landscape of the island, blasting away tons of mountainside to accommodate the streets for future developments, laying down miles of road. All of this was done for nothing. today, lined with nothing but gravel, they get unnoticed by almost everyone. Yet, they are an eerie symbol of an unsustainable economy that went bust almost overnight. And it's not just one such place, it's thousands of them. Thousands of sold dreams that never came to life.
So here's a funny thing, I'm in Gran Canaria today, and my idea was to come down and sightsee the island today. And I stumbled upon something that I quickly realized from my other adventures across mainland Spain. Mainly behind me, you can see streets lined with lamps, like this was supposed to be an area of some like urban life, right? So we drive down this road and we stumble upon this, and these are houses. They're completed houses. Inside of the windows that are open, you can see that they have basic amenities like cupboards. And right now they have bored them through because, as you see, the doors have been opened by someone. So this is a pretty much completed housing block. Rows of like these semi-detached houses that's just left abandoned in the middle of Gran Canaria. Actually in a pretty nice part of Gran Canaria in Sardinia, which is on the north side of the island, close to the Faro de Sardinia. That's what we came to see. Apparently this is what we found instead of the Faro. Of course there's no going inside, there's no way to do it, and there's a lot of things that they blocked it so that you cannot enter, but this is astonishing. These places find me, I don't find them anymore. So once again, all of that here, by the setup of the street, all of that was supposed to be rows of houses like this. It's really hard to give a believable story of this place because there is no background. I have no way to check it. I cross-referenced and couldn't find anything. So this just seems to be one of the many failed investments of Spain. But apparently in the back, I don't know if you can see it. That's where I'm pointing because I was having a problem with that. That's the completed section and this is the uncompleted one. Judging by the state of it, it's completely covered in black mold. So not the best idea to venture inside, and it seems like in a few places it has been a witness of a fire or two. So not in a good condition, no condition to be built up anytime soon. Now this is the funny thing, this place is abandoned, but what you see down here, those seem to be abandoned banana plantations. So you could see an abandoned place from your window, but your place is now abandoned too, if you know what I'm hinting at here. Being the idiot I actually jumped the fence, so this is how it looks. You have a whole street. Everything, of course, is looted. Even the toilet down there share the same fate as these things, like the cables, the wiring and stuff. So this seemed to be a bit of an upmarket place, right? You had a parking place, a nice semi-detached house of a couple of floors, and a nice street devoted just to you, and probably a security guard and stuff. What's the fate of this? Why did this happen? I can just guess it's the crisis, and there is no further explanation that I can provide just based on how this looks now. But, well, I guess it's the same for everything, right? Cheap credit, no control over banks. That's how it ended. I also just cannot tell you how eerie it is to be here. The silence is just... Let's just put it this way, it's creepy. That's why I'm going to be getting out of here. Maybe these are being inhabited by some people who shouldn't be living here, but well, yeah, there's black mold and stuff and rust on the doors. That's what you get when you are close to the ocean. Like really close. This is what, 1 kilometer from the Faro, which is at the tip of the island. So yeah, I found a new abandoned place and visited it. Or this found me, rather. Funny, isn't it? So this is the view that I've been getting. This is your terrace here. And from the terrace you would be able to see the ocean. Beautiful, relaxing, but never came to be.
In the next episode, I'll take you on a journey to the center of Spain, a place where lies an abandoned monstrosity that attracted the attention of the media worldwide, the Ciudad Real International Airport. Stay tuned to learn more and subscribe to get notified when the adventure continues on the Spanish Error 404.